Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months.
Yoda Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, you guys ready to face this man right here, dude? You guys ready to go in there in Buffalo and take on the Bills, who just smashed the Dallas Cowboys and Dak Prescott, an MVP candidate, into dust? I'm ready. I'm ready. Of course, I think Chargers fans at this point know we've turned over a new leaf. Sorry to say leaf. We've turned over a new objective for the season, okay? We are no longer fighting to get into the postseason. Nah, we are looking for draft position. We are looking for updates on the coaching situation, maybe some of the young players, basically just building up information and hype for the following season. But there are some important things to be looking for in this game. Of course, we're all rooting for Khalil Mack and his ability to get close to at least, breaking his own record in terms of sacks. So there's other things to look for on defense. You're looking for maybe an improved Kellen Moore. You're looking for what's going on with, Giff Smith. Lots to kind of look at for the Chargers. And of course, I think if you guys are looking for some good news in terms of our draft capital, I might have some for you in today's video. So we got a lot to go over. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a little bit of news that came out today regarding Sebastian Joseph-Day and Jim Harbaugh. Should be an interesting one. So before we do kick off, shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Join in on the best fantasy platform on the web using code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Make Sundays fun, even if the Chargers season is largely over. New customers can enjoy this special on Sunday Night Football. Before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into it. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers at Bills game preview. We're going to call this one Giff versus Goliath, right? I think that's pretty appropriate. Before we do jump into some of the details of the game, I do want to actually update you guys with some news that has been breaking. We may do an individual video covering some of this, but I wanted to give you guys a heads up of what's going on. It seems that is 24 hours now, because this is a Saturday game. I completely forgot, guys. This video probably should have been out yesterday. Either way, 24 hours before kickoff, it seems that the Chargers have parted ways with defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph-Day and team captain. When I say this, guys, I know there's going to be a lot of opinions on this, and I'm going to go over them here in just a second as well. But first and foremost, this was a shocking move to me. I know that maybe he has not performed to everybody's expectations since being signed by Brandon Staley a couple of years ago. Maybe there wasn't, that huge boost in production that we're looking for. But man, was this guy a good personality, dude? This is good vibes. This is good vibes. Often people ask me, like, director, if you could hang out with anybody on the team, who would it be? Obviously, Derwin James, Justin Herbert, those guys would be fun, but I think I would jive maybe the most with Sebastian Joseph-Day. I love this guy's energy. Gave a lot back to the community of Los Angeles in terms of, what was it called? Bashing Hunger was his organization. Dude was awesome. Great person, great personality. Yes, maybe did underperform a little bit, but in the end, this is probably a good move for both parties, all right? Sebastian Joseph-Day, still a very good tackle in regards to the NFL. I think a lot of people would say that he's looked at that way. I think he's going to get picked up pretty quick here. A contender's going to scoop him up. He'll get a chance to go to a better situation. And on the Chargers side, I think this move saves us somewhere in the realm of like $8 million. I have to go check the official number there. But Chargers needed cap relief desperately. Sebastian Joseph-Day looked like he might have wanted to move on. It's sad to see, but at the end of the day, I think this is not a bad move, especially for our interim GM, Mr. The guy running the show, Mr. JoJo. Mr. JoJo out here making moves already, which I think he may not be done, man. We may see more trimming of the fat in terms of Staley's guys on the roster in the coming weeks. And honestly, this may be something that the Spanoses are pushing for, saying, hey, man, make the tough calls before we bring in the next guy. Make sure the roster's in good shape for him, and as well as you can. And then we're gonna see what we're gonna do. Maybe this is also putting his name in the hat. I've heard that there are guys considering him for the next GM for the Chargers, which this is not a bad first move to kick off on. Also signing Will Greer. We're gonna go over that in just a minute too. But Sebastian Joseph-Day no longer a Los Angeles Charger as of this morning. As well as this morning, we may do a video on this. I haven't decided yet because I don't know if I like making videos like this, but at the same time, it is very, very interesting to break down what was released this morning via ESPN on an article called "Why a Disconnected Chargers Team Was Brandon Staley's Downfall." There was some talk about this on the Pat McAfee show, and this article, man, was this revealing. Like, holy crap, the disarray of the Brandon Staley era was actually much worse than I thought, in our perspective, which was already pretty bad behind the scenes. And it just goes to show how desperately this team needs change, and radical change at that. Brandon Staley, in short, there was a lot of dismissiveness, not a lot of accountability, especially to himself, but in terms of the players, asking the players to show up and be on time, and just the things that you would, expect from a multi-million-dollar football program, none of these were being met. And as a matter of fact, a lot of this was just kind of, a joke, it seems like, to the players in terms of, their confidence and their cohesiveness as a group. Really not a lot of camaraderie in the locker room, which is really crazy to think about, because if there's one thing I would label Brandon Staley as, it's a smooth talker. And not even that was able to bring the team together when they most desperately needed it. So you guys can check this out. I tweeted it on my Twitter. I may end up doing a video just on this article, though, because there is a lot to unpack there. A lot. All right? And lastly, for you guys that are going crazy about the Jim Harbaugh, pardon me. Sorry, guys. We didn't get much sleep last night. Jim Harbaugh, lots of stuff came out this last week, man. It was pretty crazy to think about some of the news that broke in terms of Jim Harbaugh and his potential move to the NFL. As a matter of fact, I'm going to go off this. We're going to pull an audible here, okay? So first off, yes, and again, thank you, Sebastian Joseph-Day, for everything you brought to the Chargers. Great personality. In terms of Jim Harbaugh, first off, yes, the odds have been boosted significantly in Jim Harbaugh's favor, and it's because of a lot of stuff that came out this weekend. But now Jim Harbaugh, by far and away, is leading the betting odds for the next Chargers head coaching position. It came out a couple of times that the Chargers have him on top of their list as their number one guy that they're looking to recruit. Of course, he's not going to be available until after the college football season has concluded. And if you guys are looking for a date, it's going to be somewhere between January 8th and maybe 15th is kind of what we're looking at. So coming up pretty quick here. It looks like as well Jim Harbaugh is going to be going through some complications with the NCAA. We already knew there were some complications in terms of a violation during the COVID period, and it seems that the NCAA looks like they're twisting the knife and making it even bigger than it is in a lot of different ways that could lead to a potential suspension, or I should say even severe consequences from the NCAA that could maybe even push Harbaugh over the edge and lead him out of the NCAA or out of college ball completely, which of course would push him right into the arms of the Los Angeles Chargers, who are the most by far enticing job in the NFL, with Justin Herbert and a lot of young guys on the team. So yeah, lots of news there. A little bit of news here told about the OC and Ben Johnston wanting $15 million a year. I'm also hearing that his agent may have said that this is not true. This could also just be a bargaining chip, but just something to keep in mind there. That's a lot of moolah, about $5 million off of what you may be having to pay a guy like Jim Harbaugh. But very, very interesting to see this story develop with Jim Harbaugh. So you guys looking for more news on him? It's looking a little bit better in terms of the odds of him coming to the Chargers. So let's kick off now. I know it's been already 10 minutes, but this won't be a very long video in terms of what to expect from the Bills game. Lots of pain, okay? As a matter of fact, let's just jump into some of the things to get prepared for. Shocker, for those of you who didn't hear, Brandon Staley is no longer the head coach of the Chargers, so get used to seeing this face on the sideline. This man, this segment I'm just going to call it Giff or Giff. Oh, man, so tired. Giff Smith, the interim head coach of the Chargers, is going to take the field for his first game in charge. Chargers outside linebackers coach for a very long time. Dude's been a staple with the community here for a long time. And I do think that it was an intelligent decision by the Chargers to go with this guy, kind of keeping everybody else in their positions for the rest of the season. Gonna be interesting. This is probably the biggest thing I'm excited to watch in terms of this particular game is how the team's going to look like without Brandon Staley. The first game we've seen in a long time without Brandon Staley in charge. And we'll see what Giff Smith has to offer in terms of his leadership. But more so, it's going to be interesting to see how this team flows, what the morale looks like, what the players' attitudes look like. Because, I mean, of course, I think a lot of us that watched the game last week could probably see that the team pretty much quit on Brandon Staley. And now at this point, we got new guys stepping in. I think a big reason why Giff Smith maybe got the position was because he is very, 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 very well liked amongst the players and teams. I'll be honest with you guys. At first, I was like, what? Who's Giff Smith? And then I remembered. I was like, oh. And somebody posted a clip from Hard Knocks. I was like, it's that guy. I love that guy. That's a very likable dude. And obviously, he knows what he's doing. And we've seen him. He's kind of like that guy, that sits in the back. And you always see him at the bar, but you never really ask his name, but you like him, right? Because he's got a good energy. That's Giff Smith to me. I should know that. I'm a bad Chargers fan. Either way, he'll be the guy in charge. Excited to see what the team looks like in terms of morale with him on the sideline. Quick injury update, too, for you guys. I think I was supposed to have this one in front of there. Who are we expecting to see suit up in this game? This is actually pretty significant because there's a couple of names on here that we don't have. Will Clapp, Chargers center, is out on IR for the rest of the season now. So we got a new guy in there by the name of Cameron Tom, I think. Good luck, Easton Stick. Outside of that, Keenan Allen is out with a heel injury. I would say most of our stars should probably sit out most of the season if they can. A couple of questionable guys in here, and Asang Bassi, Nick Williams, which would be interesting because we do no longer have Sebastian Joseph-Day, and then, of course, Nick Vanette, tight end as well. Then guys that we are probably not going to see, of course, Keenan Allen, Joey Bosa, both those guys, superstars, coming back from injury. Joey Bosa coming off of IR, too, which is pretty interesting. Good to see in terms of his position for next year. Tanner Muse and Dean Leonard not going to be suiting up. Everybody else should be fine. And then as for the Bills, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what this unspecified nonsense is. I'm just going to go ahead and say more than likely a lot of these guys are going to play. Maybe AJ Espinosa is not going to play because of the limited practice all week, but I don't know what's going on here, man. Looks like maybe what, in my perspective, could be the case is, let's be honest, the Chargers are not the most threatening team on their remaining schedule this season. So maybe they're kind of looking at this as like maybe a mini bye week, right? They're going to go in here, maybe rest as many guys as they can, list as many guys as they can in terms of, giving them chances to sit out. And there's some big names on here, man, like James Cook. Is he going to be good? I don't know. He would be a huge part of this game, right? Von Miller, unspecified. Dawson Knox, both the tight ends, and Kincaid as well. Daquan Jones, Micah Hyde, Leonard Floyd. If there's a big name on the Bills, they're going to be on this list because I do think they're treating this as kind of a recovery week. As I do feel that they are confident in taking down the Chargers. I would expect, though, Josh Allen to play and a couple of these guys to help them put away this game in their perspective. But there you have it. Okay. So, what to expect from the Chargers-Bills game? Again, maybe not too much to cover here. No carrot, no stick, just pain is going to be our first segment here. We're about to die, bro. This is not going to be a very fun game for Chargers fans to watch. Again, please try and focus on the good. Go in there, get your underdog picks in, get excited about that. Turn on Red Zone, turn on the Chargers game on the side. I'll be, of course, streaming it as always. But this is going to be a tough one, man. Especially considering the defense we're about to face. This defense of the Bills, man, they shut down Dak Prescott last week. I think 134 yards and a pick to Dak Prescott last week. And Dak is an MVP candidate this season for a very good reason. He scored touchdowns on 12 consecutive games up until that point. And that defense was looking just absolutely lights out. Okay, and it's not the first time they've looked that way. And this is especially concerning for a guy, Easton Stick, who certainly did turn it on last week versus the Raiders, I'm not going to lie. But the Raiders don't have the best defense. And this is after like a 40-something point lead by the Raiders. Absolutely ridiculous. Just be ready. Be ready for an epic spankage by the Bills, especially if they got their starters in for more than a half. It's going to be pretty brutal out here, man. Again, like I mentioned, our offensive line's not in a good way. No Corey Linsley. No Will Clapp. Now Cameron Tom, the new center in LA. it's going to be a tough one, man. And I would actually maybe even expect Easton Stick not to take all the reps this game. We'll talk about the other guy coming up here at the end of the video, but we do have another quarterback on the Chargers, not named Max Duggan, who is likely going to step in and maybe take some reps for the team. All right. Next segment here, QJ's day. Now, of course, I do think we have Josh Palmer back. I don't know how much we're going to play him because he's coming off injury as well. But Quinton Johnston, the young guy, you're going to see this opinion a lot throughout this video. We got a lot of young players that the more the better at this point on for the rest of the season. Just get them reps, man. Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got to work with. Let's identify some points of weakness that we can work on in the offseason. And Quinton Johnston, I hope to be one of the focal points of the offense this week. I do. Because I honestly think, number one, as crazy as it might sound, he might give us one of the best shots at moving the football in terms of, obviously the passing game is probably going to be our best bet, even against this defense which shut down Dak Prescott, because the run defense is pretty lethal too, man. All of this is going to be a bad situation. If anything, if the Chargers only put up 3 points, I hope Quinton Johnston gets at least 30, 40 yards and shows us something in terms of his skill set. Because I do think he's going to be looked at a couple of times this week. I would say at least 5-6 targets for Quinton Johnston. And we can hope to see that he makes the most of those opportunities. And let's see him a little bit more in the red zone. I've liked what we've seen in the red zone from Quinton so far. We'd like to see that built upon just a little bit more. Now, the man running the show behind Quinton Johnston, Kellen Moore. I'm very interested to see what this team looks like without Brandon Staley. And more in particular, how Kellen Moore calls a game without Brandon Staley. How crazy would it be if a lot of the creativity and a lot of the things that we're optimistic about at the top of the year, even if not as successful because of the lack of talent on the roster right now, what if that came to light this game in terms of his creativity and the obvious mind of Kellen Moore surfacing now that Brandon Staley is gone? And I'm not going to say that, Kellen Moore, is not his fault, blah, blah, blah. He is a victim of circumstance. No, but maybe there was some meddling by Staley. Maybe there was, if he was, micromanaging the defense that much and all that, maybe he was with the offense too. Who knows? I'm interested to see what Kellen Moore has to offer as offensive coordinator without Brandon Staley, because I want to see what this man has to offer before maybe exiting the Chargers next season. We can hope and pray that he remains the OC. I know a lot of people probably disagree with that, and maybe, I would agree with that if he has a crappy game here too, not showing any signs. But I would like to see some version of that Kellen Moore turn its head in this game, even with a lackluster roster, just to maybe give us some hope of the future if we do decide to stick with him. All right. This segment called No Run, No Problem. Wait, big problem. And I don't know if I got a picture for the next one. We'll grab that in just a second. The Chargers run game is going to be a problem. And it's been a problem all season. I think this is something you guys already know. Austin Eckler's really been underperforming in the past even, which is pretty crazy. And this is where I think why you're going to have to lean into Easton Stick, Quinton Johnston, maybe, Josh Palmer, depending on how much they play him, is because I don't expect much from the Chargers run game this week. Maybe not from Austin Eckler in particular, too. Because, again, Buffalo also held the Cowboys to under 90 yards on the ground last week. Pollard, I think, led with 52 yards, and Dak was falling behind him with 27. I do think that the Chargers should run the ball this week to try and protect their quarterbacks a little bit, but I don't know how much production we're going to get out of Austin Eckler, even in terms of carries, how many looks he's going to be getting. Now, on the other side of it, we got this guy, James Cook, to talk about, who went absolutely bananas last week, 230 total yards just about, and 2 touchdowns. Absolutely insane. And I think he's going to do it again. Of course, the Chargers, our defensive line is going to look a little bit different. We haven't looked that great versus the run in recent weeks anyway. So if I were the Bills, man, I would go out there, grab a lead with the Josh Allen dude, and then just kind of run it with James Cook, depending on if he plays. I think they got some nice backups too. Latavius Murray, I know, is out there as well. It's going to be interesting to see how this one unfolds. So the Chargers' lack of run game is going to hurt us. The Bills' run game, which is pretty good, is also going to hurt us. It's going to get kind of ugly in there. And then I forgot to get a photo for this, but also keep an eye out for Mac Attack and Thule. The Bills have given up sacks, I think, consecutively, like 5 or 6 games in a row. They don't give up too many, like maybe 1 or 2 a game, but I would like to see, if anything, Khalil Mack break his personal record this game, so keep that in mind. All right. Then, of course, yes, there's that Josh Allen guy that we have to worry about. Dallas's defense did a pretty good job at shutting down Allen's passing attack last week, even though they ran the ball a lot. But before that game, Josh Allen, he's been as dangerous as ever. Also an MVP candidate. Him and Stephon Diggs, I think they're going to feast this week. It's going to be a nightmare out there. But the big thing I did want to wrap up this video with, a couple of different points here, is space for the young guys. Okay, and we talked about this. This is, again, a big point that I'm going to be trying to drive home for the rest of the season. Let's get some looks, man. Let's get some looks for the young guys, especially the guys that are on the roster past this season, because we're going to need to know. We're going to need to evaluate even further to help ourselves in the future here, okay? So Isaiah Spiller, he's been getting a nice handful of carries the past couple of weeks, him and Joshua Kelly. I want to see more, man. And you know what? I haven't been too disappointed in what I've seen from Isaiah Spiller. Yes, it's not been anything crazy, but it's not been bad either. Now I'd like to see what he does against this Bills defense, which is definitely not too bad. See if he can get any space out there, make some moves, and just honestly just build a little bit. He needs that time to build his game with the Chargers. Because, of course, his time in college is very well spent. I would like to see some more reps in building his skill set with the Chargers before next season, because next year, I think as of right now, he's the only running back on contract with us, right? So the Chargers are going to have to make some moves anyway. But if Isaiah can prove to be a pretty capable running back too, at least, I think it starts now in giving these young guys some carries. Of course, Darius Davis, another young guy I want to see get some more opportunity this week in terms of a receiver. The return game has been very, very solid. I think almost exactly what we expected from Darius Davis. You know, some big playability. The touchdowns were exciting. Maybe a little bit of worry in terms of, you know, dropping returns and stuff like that. But he's, for the most part, been a pretty great special teamer. I would say very, very great special teamer. I want to see his skill set as a receiver a little bit more, and I think you can sprinkle him in a little bit more in games like this week with the Bills, even if it's going to be tough. I just want to see that speed on display as much as possible. Maybe help out our quarterbacks a little bit. And speaking of quarterbacks, for those of you guys who don't know, the Chargers did sign former Dallas Cowboy in Will Greer to the roster this week. Of course, he's got chemistry with Kellen Moore. And I do think that we're going to see some reps from him. I don't know if I'm like going to say for certain that's going to be the case, but I would not be surprised if Kellen Moore said, hey, we're going to give you the fourth quarter, we're going to give you the second half or whatever, right? Just to kind of get some looks at Will Greer, because it's a guy that he's familiar with. The Chargers, I don't think, have Easton Stick locked up next year in terms of backup quarterback. So this will be a nice, I would say, tryout for Will Greer, who we don't always have like the highest opinion of these guys, or in terms of, you know, the highest hopes that they're going to accomplish that. But at the same time, it's worth a shot at this point. And Kellen Moore brought him in for a reason. So let's see what he's got out there while we have these games to test these things out. Dan Henley's another guy I really hope to see more reps for. Chargers in terms of linebacker, we do have Kendricks on contract for next season. But Kenneth Murray might not return to the team, so I would love to see what Dan Henley has to offer in terms of that position very, very soon. And then a guy that we've almost not gotten to see anything of this year, which is crazy because he was one of those guys I was very excited to see develop this season and show us something, okay? I didn't see him on the injury report. I hope he's not on IR, but I do think he's returning. He's been on the injury report with an illness for the longest time. I had a suspicion it may have been COVID or something. I think he might be returning. I don't know. We haven't seen any of JT Woods this year. I would love to see JT get a ton of looks, as much as we can give him for a while, just to see what he has to offer going in the future, because he was a second-round pick, y'all, or third. We need to see what he's got, especially as the Chargers are going to be maybe safety needy. I do think that Alohi may not return next year. Hopefully he does, but who knows? So getting some more looks at JT Woods is going to be especially important as well. To wrap this video up, guys, thank you guys for bearing with me this week. It's been a long, long night. My score prediction for this one, shocker, is going to be Chargers 10, Bills 34. And at this point, I think the Chargers, who hold pick 8 in the draft, will help their stock in building up to the top 5. If I had to guess, I'm going to guess the Chargers end up with pick 6 or 5. 6 or 5 this year. And with the rest of our season looking the way it does, I think after the Bills, we have the Broncos and the Chiefs. Probably a pretty good shot that we don't win another one, which is okay. We have a lot of things to evaluate and keep an eye on, especially when it comes to the draft capital. But games like this week, just put your feet up. Know that there's nothing really at stake here. And let's see what we got. Let's see what we got in terms of some of these young guys, and in terms of the draft and what to look forward to there. We'll keep an eye on things. And please, guys, If you haven't already, go follow me on Twitter because I'm putting out a ton of information in terms of the Harbaugh situation. We're following that narrative very, very closely. Putting out some stuff on Bill Belichick as well. Keeping an eye on a lot of the coaching candidates that we want to see enter the Chargers building here very soon. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Hey, man, we're sporting this man for a reason this week, dude. Number 45, Tuli Pelotu. We'd love to see this man get a sack this week, too. Bolt up, baby.